Saturday, May 10th, 2:27 a.m. 55 seconds on the second hand. Stemming off of my most previous episode of betting advice going forward in the future, I'm just going to run through all of the sports that I would never recommend putting any money on ever in any circumstance ever in the future. College sports, women's sports, any vehicular racing, so NASCAR, Formula One, any kind of women's whatever the hell. Almost all player props, all playoffs, including the Stanley Cup, the NBA playoffs, NFL playoffs, and the World Series MLB playoffs. Soccer for me, boxing, UFC, MMA, any sport on a holiday. So Thanksgiving, Black Friday, Christmas, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Easter, the Bunny Rabbit holiday. Probably even like Cinco de Mayo, St. Patrick's Day, 4th of July, Halloween, betting against a quarterback in the NFL, a starting pitcher in MLB, or a starting goaltender in the NHL, or if you're into soccer, which I will never be. I will not ever do that. On their birthday and or in their hometown. Thursday night football. And any Thursday night football matchups and teams the following week after their Thursday night football game. So that would be 10 days after the Thursday night football game that they played. So that would be, it'd be off limits to bet on Thursday night football because of they only have, 3 days of preparation, 3-4 days of preparation, depending on, they don't usually put a Thursday night football team to play on Thursday night if they played on Monday. So obviously they have 4 days of preparation, which is just, it completely throws off the the internal calendar of a team and a player. So just staying away from Thursday night football games would be recommended. Also, the following week after those just those two teams that played on Thursday night, just avoid them the following week. So 10 days later. Also, after a bye week, so that would be 14 days of rest compared to 7 in the NFL. I would recommend staying away from all teams after a bye week. I would recommend staying away from all international games. So anytime they play in Brazil, Germany, Great Britain, China, Antarctica, the moon. All snow and rain games. So anytime that there's an NFL game, check the weather. And if there's any snow or rain expected, I would just stay away from the game in every aspect in that regard. And last but not least, I would stay away from all MLB games for the next 13 months or so due to the pitch clock rule still having an effect, I believe, due to some pitchers coming back from Tommy John surgery, and some of them are just now getting reintroduced to the pitch clock. after sitting out for almost 2 years. So, and some of these players are coming back from injury and they're not used to certain pitchers with certain pitch mechanics and certain windups. And they're just, I would just stay away from the MLB altogether due to the pitch clock. Still, it's the third year that the pitch clock has been implemented in the major leagues due to it being probably the biggest rule change in all major sports in the history of sports, in terms of a rule change being permanently implemented into any of the major sports. I think that the pitch clock is the most, probably the second most crucial rule change ever, and maybe will be in history of sports, aside from after the NFL legally allowed them to like let them pass the ball after they added, because it used to in the NFL it used to be a run game in like the 50s. So in the 50s they would just run the ball. They wouldn't pass it. They couldn't pass it back then. They weren't legally allowed to throw the football. So after they changed that rule, I'd say that's the number one rule that's like the most biggest most crucial rule change to the game of all sports. Number two would be the pitch clock, which just got implemented in the major leagues. It's been over 2 years now. I would just wait a year, 13 months from now, because why would you not? Chris Sale and Zach Wheeler had pretty good years last year, so I figured after watching their pitching matchups, I figured no runs first inning for those two would be something that they would be able to come through on because of their success last year and them having enough of a sample size with the pitch clock after, I believe, yeah, whatever. Anyways, so MLB is off limits, I would say, in every aspect because of the pitch clock rule still, because you have to imagine what it's like just being a pitcher and yeah, whatever. I'm not going to go into it. But college sports off limits, should be illegal. Women's sports, I don't even think that people knew that. I think if women knew that people could bet on them, that would make things. That would make all the criterion threshold against the spread records and total records. It would flip all of those and make them all illegitimate and invalid, because women would realize, oh, I didn't even know that people could do this legally. They can put money on me, and it would cause like a malfunction in their brain and on their team. And also, a couple of things that I noticed that I would recommend, and I personally would prefer being implemented in like ESPN, the ESPN app, and CBS Sports HQ, and MLB app, the NFL app, the NBA app, the NHL app. Jersey number changes being labeled when changing team and or number, and the years that the player was what number on each team for every year and team played for. So basically, if Alex Ovechkin were to be traded to a different team next year and he were to be number 80 versus number 8, because he's been number 8 his entire career, let's say the Anaheim Ducks picked up Alex Ovechkin and he was number 80. I would like and this goes for every player. I would like all of these numbers and jersey changes and teams and years all to be labeled, and even when you're like watching the game live, like when they show stats from previous years, I would like them to show the teams that these, like, to have all this shit actually labeled, like just have AI do it. And I'm really picking at the NHL here because of I really like the NBA injury report that the NBA has. They every hour on the 30, so it's past 2:30 now. So 2:30 a.m., 3:30 a.m., 4:30 a.m., 5:30 a.m., 6:30 a.m., 7:30 a.m., 8:30 a.m., 9:30 a.m., and all throughout the day, 24 times a day, the NBA, the National Basketball Association, has an injury report that is official, that is released every hour, 30 minutes before 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 5 p.m., 6 p.m., where they have every team comes out with all the players that have injury updates or illness updates or COVID updates. I would really appreciate the NHL doing this on an official NHL website, um, for not a different website, like an official NHL injury report, the same way the NBA does it, preferably 30 minutes, 24 times a day. That way, 30 minutes before the game, you just see the injury report, and it's official. Not 10 minutes before the game on a fucking website where it's sponsored and partnered by a fucking sportsbook. It's insane. To make me refresh the page, like the injury report, multiple times to get an accurate injury report because it's partnered with a sportsbook is fucking nuts. Also, offensive, defensive coordinators and special teams coordinators, which are basically the play callers in the NFL, I think it should be mandatory that all three of these people for every team in the NFL for every game. So if you go to the ESPN app and you click on the Thursday night football matchup between the Packers and the Lions, I think it should be necessary because they have the head coaches listed and they have the referees listed and they have the totals and the ATS, like the spread and the money line, and it shows who covered the money line, who covered the spread, who covered the total. It shows the box score, it shows all the plays, it shows the play-by-play, it shows everything. It shows the attendance. But it doesn't show the offensive coordinator, which is the offensive play caller, the defensive coordinator, which is the defensive play caller, and the special teams coordinator, which is the special teams play caller. It doesn't have either of these people listed, and I think that should be illegal, especially on the ESPN app, considering, And last but not least, all MLB channels need to label ER, which would be earned runs, when showing the pitcher's statistics. So when they show the starting pitchers or the relief pitchers or the closers, I think it should be mandatory to show the earned runs given up over the course of the current season. So when they show a starting pitcher and it shows, if you don't know the formula, this is the formula to figure that out since they don't show it. So when you're looking at the pitcher's statistics and it shows innings pitched, so you do innings pitched divided by 9 times the ERA. So when it shows a pitcher's statistics and it shows the pitchers how many innings pitched they have in the current 2025 MLB season, it'll show innings pitched. So you take that number, divided by 9, and then whatever that comes out to, times that by the ERA, the earned run average. Earned run average is the amount of earned runs given up in 9 innings on average for the current pitcher. So if you want to find out how many total earned runs the pitcher has given up over the course of the entire year, which I think is important information, they don't label it for some reason. That is the formula to do that. Innings pitched divided by 9 times the ERA. I don't really know why that's not labeled. It's a pretty simple formula and a pretty simple statistic to label, to show, to understand, to want to know. But if you don't know, that's the formula for it. Anyways, also, if you're trying to quit cigarettes and you drink a lot of like hot coffee and you do that kind of thing, holy Martha. Because something I've noticed is a severe like addiction. Because I used to go to AA and NA meetings a lot, and people there drink coffee and smoke cigarettes like like they think that yeah, whatever. If you're drinking coffee and you realize, oh wow, I'm craving cigarettes right now, it's because of the hot coffee. And me personally, every time I have coffee, when I used to smoke cigarettes, I would have a cigarette like every time. It's become like the hardest like trigger, and it's become like the hardest thing for my mind and my brain to disconnect from, in terms of wanting and craving. Like every time I have coffee, I want a cigarette. So then instead of smoking a cigarette, I go hit like the smallest hit of weed from a bowl or a pen, just because my lungs are actually addicted to having smoke in them when I have coffee in my system. It's really like crazy. It's almost like not an act of God, obviously, because my body is just literally, my lungs are addicted to inhaling smoke when I have warm liquid in my body. So, something that I've noticed really helps in my body and my brain helping to stave off of the craving for smoke in my lungs when I drink coffee is I just throw a bunch of ice in my coffee and milk with no sugar, because I stopped sucking on suckers and Jolly Ranchers, because when I quit the cigarettes, I started sucking on suckers a lot and drinking coffee a lot. And every time I drink coffee, I realized, oh man, my fucking brain and my lungs want smoke in my body right now. I want to go outside and smoke. So I would hit a little bit of weed when I'm outside, and I realized that going outside and hitting weed once or twice, like once throughout the day, twice, when I'm trying to quit cigarettes, like helped my brain quit cigarettes, because I'm going outside and hitting something outside. Like my lungs are inhaling a smoke of THC outside. So I'm literally replacing the nicotine and tar with a hit of weed when I crave cigarettes, which would when I noticed when I would drink hot coffee, I would crave cigarettes more. So I'd want to go outside more. I would feel like incomplete if I wasn't outside. And this is because every time I drink coffee, I smoke cigarettes for half my life. I'm 26. Not half my life, but close to it. I mean, literally every single time I had a cup of coffee, I would light a cigarette. So I've noticed cold coffee with milk removes that craving and that need to want to have smoke in my lungs almost entirely, to the point where anytime I drink cold coffee with milk, I don't crave going outside. I don't really crave. I mean, I do a little bit, but it's pretty non existent. When I drink the hot coffee, it's like I'm sitting here watching hockey and I'm like, I feel like I need to be doing something else. And that would be because of the hot coffee in my brain for 10, 12 years. Every time I drink that coffee, I'm like, oh, cigarette time. That's what that feeling is of me sitting here feeling like I'm incomplete. It's like ADHD. Uh, it's like ADHD and that fixation of nicotine. It's like, no, just drink the coffee cold with ice and milk, no sugar, because we're cutting out the sugar too. Because I cut out the suckers, or I'm trying to. And you know how you do that? Sunflower seeds. Sunflower seeds are the best alternative to suckers, to cigarettes, to weed. Sunflowers. I eat like a whole bag of them in a day, and I want more because even when I have coffee, warm coffee, which I don't have anymore, I only drink cold coffee because I don't crave going outside. But the sunflower seeds, um, they're the best alternative to all of that. The suckers and the sugar and the candy is great for when you're cutting out cigarettes and you're trying to quit weed, which is like, I can barely sleep, you know? But that's how I've been doing that. That's how I'd recommend doing that if you're trying to do that in the future. So what was it? No MLB for 13 months? Yep.